What's up, everybody? It is the WWE Raw Recap for Monday, February 15th. Lacey Evans is pregnant, Sheamus comes in last, and Kofi Kingston is in the Elimination Chamber. Let's do this thing. All right. What's up, everybody? I'm Dave. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. WWE Raw going down tonight. Kind of a wild episode of Raw, right? Kind of crazy. A lot of weird stuff happening. Lacey Evans pregnant. Bad Bunny's the new 24/7 champion. Miz deciding to pull himself out of the Elimination Chamber. Why would you pull yourself out of the Elimination Chamber? Well, Miz figures, since he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, that he's got a better shot of winning the WWE Championship if he cashes in after the Chamber, if he's not in the match. Doesn't want to give himself two chances to win the WWE Championship. Doesn't want to try to be in the match, and then maybe if things don't work out, try again with the Money in the Bank after the match, or another time, or after the gauntlet match tonight when Drew McIntyre was beat up after several matches in a row. No Miz cashing in there. Would have made sense, but it didn't happen. We'll tell you what did happen here on Monday Night Raw. Shout out to Nathan Buffington, who's in the chat. What's up, Nathan? Give me your thoughts on Raw in the chat. Happy to talk to you. Happy to recap Raw with you here tonight. Miz hosting Miz TV. Drew McIntyre was the guest. This was not a good way to start Raw. They went on and on. Miz said John Morrison wasn't there because he's recording a Bad Bunny diss track, which, it's not true. You wonder why Morrison isn't there. Whenever there's a mysterious absence from WWE TV, you automatically think COVID. Hope not. Weird that Morrison wasn't there. Morrison's wife got hired over the weekend by the WWE. Taya Valkyrie, former Impact Wrestling champion. Taya Valkyrie is married to Morrison. She got signed, but Morrison not on Raw to celebrate with The Miz. It was just Miz and Drew, and they were talking for a while. Miz was talking about not wanting to be in the chamber. Well, eventually he got to that. He got headbutted by Drew. He was talking to Drew, talking smack to Drew, and then eventually Drew had enough and just headbutted him, and Miz dropped. And you figure that's the end of the segment. We're done. But no, Miz kept talking. He kept talking and talking and talking. Like he wouldn't shut up. And then Miz said he didn't want to be in the chamber because he's got the Money in the Bank, right? So he says he's removing himself from the Elimination Chamber match. Then we cut to Matt Riddle backstage. He's with the Lucha House Party talking about President's Day. That was not a great promo there. Kind of goofy, continuing the goofy Matt Riddle character. Riddle says that Harrison Ford is his favorite president, talking about his favorite presidents. Commentary seemed to have a good chuckle over it. I was not laughing. I don't know who was. I don't even know if Riddle was amused by this. We had a match after this. It was Riddle and the Lucha House Party against MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander, the Hurt Business. And Riddle and the House Party won. Riddle hit the floating bro on MVP and got the win for his team there with the LHP, the Lucha House Party. Bobby Lashley attacking Matt Riddle after the match. Also attacked the Lucha House Party. Lashley applying the Hurt Lock to Riddle. Now, this match at the pay-per-view coming up on Sunday is a triple threat with Keith Lee. It's Bobby Lashley defending the United States Championship against Keith Lee and Matt Riddle. But Keith Lee didn't show up. Keith Lee wasn't on Raw. He didn't do a promo talking about what Bobby Lashley did to Matt Riddle. The whole build for this match tonight on the Go Home show was Riddle and Bobby. Where's Keith Lee? Is he going to be on the pay-per-view? Another mysterious absence, right? Strange. I know he got engaged last week to Mia Yim, also known as Reckoning. So many wrestling couples, right? It's like every wrestler I talk about also has news with their significant other, also in the wrestling business. So Reckoning from Retribution and Keith Lee got engaged. Saw that on Twitter last week. And maybe Lee had a party and got COVID. I don't know. I don't know where Keith Lee is, but he wasn't on Raw. Which is weird that he wasn't on Raw. Why the hell wasn't he on that show? It's a go-home show. He's got a U.S. title match in a triple threat with Riddle and Bobby, and it seems like he may or may not even be in this match at this point. Judging from what I saw on the segment tonight, it seemed like it's just Riddle versus Bobby one-on-one on Sunday. Because Keith Lee was, I mean, they mentioned him, they put him in the graphic, but he wasn't on the show. So that was weird. Miz was backstage with Adam Pearce, thanking Pearce for the opportunity of being in the chamber, but saying, I don't want to be in the thing. And Adam Pearce says, okay, Miz, I guess I'll take it under consideration. Miz wants John Morrison to be in the match instead of him. He wants to give John Morrison the shot. Even though last week when they booked the match, they said it was going to be all former WWE champions. John Morrison, not a former WWE champion, so I don't know why that made sense. And it didn't. Oh, damn. Derek John in the chat, always bringing the info to me. Thank you, Derek. A member of the team. Thank you, Derek, not only for bringing the info, but also for being a member. He says Mia Yim has COVID. Good God almighty. I mean, that explains why Keith Lee wasn't on Raw tonight, right? And Keith Lee might not be on the pay-per-view on Sunday. Breaking news, dropping the info. That's why she hasn't been on Raw for a couple of weeks, because of COVID. Huh. But Keith Lee was on Raw last week, right? Did the WWE not know about their relationship? Did they just find out that they got engaged on Twitter and they were like, wait a second, you two are together? Well, this one has COVID. And you're on TV? Like, that wouldn't be good, right? That's a reason to pull a guy from a pay-per-view. If the WWE was unaware of the romantic relationship between Keith Lee and Mia Yim, and you would think that before Keith Lee proposes to this woman, he's spending a considerable amount of his time with her, right? Keith Lee was on Raw last week, was he not? And Mia Yim hasn't been on Raw because she has COVID, and this has been a couple of weeks? Well, wait a second. Was Keith Lee staying away from Mia Yim? But then he couldn't stay away for so long, so he had to go and propose to her, despite the fact that she had COVID, and he said, screw it. I'll just miss the pay-per-view. I'll miss Raw. Forget my WWE career. Is that what happened here? Very strange. And Nathan wants to talk about the Lacey Evans situation. We will talk about the Lacey Evans situation. I'm getting to it. We're going through Monday Night Raw. We're going to get to it real soon. But the Keith Lee thing now is getting more and more strange. I would pull him from the pay-per-view on principle. If you're hanging around with people that you know have COVID and you're also showing up to work, I mean, that's not good. Didn't they fire Steve Cutler because of that? He got COVID because he went to a New Year's Eve party, and Vince got so pissed off that he's like, wow, fire this man. He's a risk to the company, right? That's what happened to Steve Cutler. Keith Lee goes to see his fiancée, now Mia Yim, who has COVID. Not on Raw tonight. That explains it. So Miz wants John Morrison to get in the chamber. Of course, that's not going to go down. Mandy Rose is backstage with Bad Bunny. Mandy is a big fan of Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny's going to be the musical guest on Saturday Night Live this Saturday night. And you wonder why the WWE has this guy working a match at WrestleMania. I mean, he's a big star. He's working Saturday Night Live. He's working Raw every single week. He's showing up every week. And now he's the 24/7 champion because Damian Priest showed up and was talking to Bad Bunny. And then Akira Tozawa and R-Truth show up and their whole melee. Tozawa rolls up Truth, becomes a 24/7 champion. Damian Priest decides to just kind of smash Tozawa, pushes him down, tells Bad Bunny, look, he's down, become a champion. And then he does so, becomes a 24/7 champion. Truth is upset. So that's how it ended. Maybe Bad Bunny will hold the title for a while. Maybe he'll be the longest reigning 24/7 champion ever. Hold it from now till Mania. Good for the Bunny. Like, I get why they have him there. I like Bad Bunny. I like that song, Booker T. Nathan Buffington thinks Bad Bunny's going to be jumped by Miz and Morrison at Mania. It's going to be a match. It's going to be Miz and Morrison against Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. It's going to be a tag team match. It's happening. Unbelievable. So Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston are backstage with Adam Pearce. They want Kofi to get Miz's spot in the Elimination Chamber. I wanted Kofi to get Miz's spot in the Elimination Chamber last week when we were talking about it. I was like, how come Kofi's not in this match? You have a match of former WWE champions. You don't put Kofi in there. And as Xavier Woods pointed out, Kofi has been WWE champion more recently than 4 out of the 6 men already booked in that match. He's been WWE champion more recently than Jeff Hardy, than AJ Styles, than Miz, and who else is in that match? Sheamus, right? Only Drew and Randy have held the title more recently than Kofi, and for some reason Kofi was not booked in that match. Xavier Woods was upset. Not to mention, the WWE pointing out on their show, putting promos out there, it is Black History Month. Kofi Kingston is the first Black WWE champion in the history of the company. And, it was an all-white match up until now. Kofi Kingston is in the match. He had to wrestle for it. He had to wrestle The Miz. Also, Kofi's awesome, He's just better than Miz and a couple of the other guys in the match, too. I'm not going to name names. Just saying Kofi is fantastic, and I'm happy that he's now in the Elimination Chamber. He had a match with The Miz that he won, hit the Trouble in Paradise, got the 1-2-3. Kofi's now in the Elimination Chamber and was in the gauntlet in the main event that we'll get to. Kofi's fantastic. That match was not very good because Miz is awful. Ugh. Miz is so bad. That match I felt bad for Kofi having to wrestle that guy. He looked like he was trying and struggling to do the best that he could with what he had. And what he had is Miz, the drizzling Miz. That was not Miz's best performance. Far from it. That was awful. That match sucked. Ugh. So Lacey Evans cuts a promo with Ric Flair before the match. It's Lacey and Peyton versus Charlotte and Asuka. And Lacey's talking about Charlotte, and she's got Valentine's Day candy for Charlotte, and she likes Ric Flair, and she's been listening to Ric's sweet words all week, and typical Lacey stuff that we've been hearing lately, right? Charlotte and Asuka wind up beating Lacey and Peyton by countout. They work Peyton over for a little while. Peyton tags Lacey. Lacey didn't want to get in the ring and wrestle Charlotte. She's been scared of Charlotte. Peyton tags out to Lacey. Lacey bails on the match, gets counted out, gets on the microphone, and says, Charlotte, don't touch me. You can't touch me because I'm pregnant. And Ric Flair is celebrating like he's the father and is like, yeah, I'm the daddy. Call me daddy. Woo. Right? Mind-blowing. Shocking. And now, apparently, Lacey Evans is shoot pregnant. She's actually with child. And was, on the apron for a match, which, whatever. But apparently she's actually pregnant. If she is actually pregnant and goes away, is the WWE really going to stick with the storyline that Ric Flair is the father? She's actually pregnant. or we're going to find out that Ric Flair isn't the father. And if he isn't the father, there's still the idea that he might be. Right? Flair thinks and is acting like he might be the father of Lacey Evans, which tells us that in this storyline, Flair, 71-year-old Nature Boy Ric Flair, and 30-year-old Lacey Evans have had sexual relations. Woo. I mean, that is something, because last week it felt like they were trying to say that that's not the story. Flair kind of botched it by saying our relationship is casual, but I think he meant to say like platonic. Lacey ran it back. Lacey last week was like, oh, he's just my coach. I think he's cute, but we're not, that kind of way. Right? Last week, they were really trying to make it seem clear to everybody that despite the insinuation that they are just coach and student. But this week, they are telling us that Ric Flair's had sex with Lacey Evans. And Lacey Evans has had sex with Ric Flair. And Ric Flair might be the father of her unborn child. Now, he's not. In real life, Lacey is married. She has a kid already. This will be her second kid, I think. And I'm assuming her real-life shoot husband is the father. But tonight on Raw, we were led to believe that it is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable that the WWE is going to this level at this point. And I kind of like it. It's kind of funny, right? It's like, what? Are they really doing that? Like, it's so ridiculous. It's so absurd that at this point it's just gone to a point where it's just... And that last week they didn't know Lacey was pregnant. She wasn't pregnant, you would assume. And they were like, okay, this is student and coach. This week they're like, well, Lacey's pregnant. What do we do? How do we explain? Well, let's just say Nate is the father. They're like, let's just do this. Because we didn't know what we were doing. Let's just go in this direction. And Charlotte's face was just priceless. Priceless. And now, I mean, it's just crazy. I like it. And now Lacey is out of the match with Asuka on Sunday. Right? Lacey had a title match. And this is the thing that gets me too. Lacey's 30 years old. She's got time to have children. Right? She's in a feud where Nature Boy Ric Flair is her manager. She's probably going to work Charlotte at Mania. She might be on her way to beating Asuka at Elimination Chamber to become the Raw champion, become champion for the first time in her career, to go on and main event WrestleMania in one of the main events against Charlotte Flair, the top women's wrestler in the business. She's got Ric Flair in her corner, one of the greatest legends in the history of the game, in a hot angle. And, she decides, I assume this isn't a mistake, right? She decides to get pregnant and take herself out of the ballgame. At, a time when this is, the peak of her career. It's not going to, it might get bigger when she comes back from the baby, right? But now she's out of the game. And it takes her out of the game at a time when she was it really seemed like Lacey was going to be having a huge match with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. So it's an interesting turn of events for the WWE, for Charlotte Flair. Like, what does she do now? How do they move on with Charlotte and the whole angle and Asuka as the Raw champion? Like, Lacey seemed to be a big part of the plans going forward for WrestleMania for the title for Charlotte, right? It seems to me like Bianca is going to wrestle Sasha, but now all those plans could be out the window because Lacey's out of the picture. Lacey now will probably not be on Raw again for another year at least, right? So it's I mean, this is it's interesting. It's interesting for the WWE. It throws a wrench, I'm sure, in a lot of their plans. But hey, if this is what Lacey wanted, you know, the family comes first. I'm totally with that. But goddamn, pal, she was gonna get a major push. Crazy. So Lacey is gone. Flair is the father. Lacey is legitimately pregnant. From all indications, Lacey's like really pregnant. If she's not, it's a hell of an angle, right? Really, I mean, if she's not pregnant, but if she's not pregnant, how do you I mean, she could just say, oh, I was lying. I'm not really pregnant. I just said it to mess with Charlotte Flair. You know, if it is an angle, but all indications seem to point to her being really pregnant in real life, and the father is her real husband. And they explained it with Ric Flair is the father. I mean, I guess it's better than Kurt Angle being Jason Jordan's father, right? As far as strange dads, is it better than Vince being Hornswoggle's dad? I don't know, but I guess it turned out in the end he wasn't really Hornswoggle's dad. He just thought he was for a while. Anyways, what else happened on Raw? They replayed the Nia Jax My Whole thing from last week. That seems to be a gimmick now for Nia Jax. Lana and Naomi talked about it in their promo backstage before Lana's match with Shayna that Lana lost. Shayna put her chokehold there. Lana tapped. Naomi and Nia brawled a bit ringside. They're doing something. I guess Shayna and Nia are still the tag team champions, right? They won it back. And they're feuding with Naomi and Lana on Raw. They don't have a match on the pay-per-view, which is another thing about this pay-per-view coming up on Sunday. No women's matches. No women's matches at all. They had a women's chamber match in 2018, 2019, 2020. No women's chamber match this year. They're not going to book it last minute, so that's not happening. And with Lacey out of the match with Asuka, they currently have no women's matches booked for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which is weird. Derek John says Charlotte versus Asuka. That makes sense, but they've done it before at Mania. And he's suggesting a Ripley-Charlotte rematch at Mania, which they did last year. You know, like, I don't know. I guess they could do that. I'll tell you, if they could get Ronda or Becky, then now would be the time. If Becky can come back early somehow, Becky and Asuka for the title, you know, the title Becky never lost, I'd buy into that hook, line, and sinker. That'd be great, but I don't think Becky's ready to come back. To me, the only way to really save it and make a bigger match would be to bring back Becky for a Becky-Asuka match, but I don't think you're going to do that. Charlotte-Asuka, I guess. But the Lacey thing really had some heat to it. I just want to give a shout out to a couple of our members. Patrick C. Hamilton, he is a member of the team. Thank you, Patrick, for becoming a member. Thank you to Derek John. Patrick says, certainly getting my money's worth as a member with all these shows. Definitely not going to start watching wrestling when I can have your show. That's right, we watch wrestling, so you don't have to. I watch Raw tonight. I'm going to be watching Dynamite on Wednesday night with my man Johnny North, who is a professional wrestler, who is a giant, jacked man. and also a great professional wrestler and a great guy overall and a great professional wrestling analyst. And he's going to be with me on Wednesday night after Dynamite to talk about AEW and what happened on Dynamite. So that'll be fun. And then he always joins me Friday night here, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right after SmackDown for Wrestling Uncensored. Moving on with what's going on Monday Night Raw, Randy Orton cut a backstage promo about the gauntlet match. Alexa Bliss interrupted, did a creepy promo from a room backstage, some kind of room. I don't know what that was. It had a door and a wall. Wasn't clear what kind of room that was. Seemed like a Firefly Funhouse type thing. Alexa says that he will be reborn, talking about The Fiend, of course, after The Fiend was burnt alive a few pay-per-views ago by Randy. Alexa is in one of those circles with the 5-pointed star, the pentagram or something, right? I don't know. I'm not into witchcraft. I know that that's a symbol of something. It's like for witches, some sort of seance to resurrect the Fiend or to contact the dead or something. I don't know what Alexa's doing, some sort of hocus-pocus bullshit. I'm not into that. I'm not into that stuff. I thought it was a little silly, the whole promo with Alexa. She's trying to be creepy. It is what it is. We'll see more of Alexa later on in the show. Braun Strowman showed up, okay? This was a weird little segment here with Braun Strowman. He shows up and he tells Adam Pearce that he wants to be in the Elimination Chamber match, and he wonders why he isn't. Now, I don't think Braun Strowman has ever been WWE champion, right? Isn't this a match for WWE champions? For former champions? Braun wasn't WWE champion. Why didn't Adam Pearce just tell him that? You were Universal Champion, Braun. It doesn't count. It's not the same thing. You weren't WWE champion. That's why you're not in the match. Now get the hell out of my face. He didn't say that to Braun Strowman, though. Braun was all mad, and he told Adam Pearce that he needs to tell Shane McMahon that he's got to make things right, and if Shane McMahon doesn't make things right, then Braun's going to make things really bad around Monday Night Raw. Is Shane McMahon in charge of Raw? Who's in charge of Raw, exactly? Is it Adam Pearce? Is it Shane McMahon? Is it the McMahons? It's not clear at all. Last week, Shane McMahon was in the ring to help Adam Pearce announce the participants for the Elimination Chamber. I don't understand. Is Shane now in charge of Raw? Braun Strowman was acting like he was, and Adam Pearce is just the GM. And on SmackDown, Adam Pearce is the GM too, but Roman Reigns acts like he talks to, I think as Roman puts it, the higher-ups in the WWE, who you guess are the McMahons, Stephanie or Triple H or Vince or Shane, I guess. It's really unclear who's in charge of the WWE, right? Braun Strowman is mad at Shane McMahon for some reason, as if Shane is in charge of Raw. He was in charge of Raw Underground, but that's not a thing anymore. I don't understand. Shane McMahon. So Braun, I guess, is going to wrestle Shane at Mania. I mean, they're doing something with Braun and Shane, right? Braun versus Shane at Mania. It's 2 nights. You're probably going to need a Shane match. So I would figure they'll give Braun the Shane match. Anybody excited about that? AJ Styles cut a lengthy promo with Omos, talking about the Elimination Chamber and how great he is and so on. And he's right. He is great. AJ's the man. His match with Kofi was all right. They started the gauntlet. That was the final hour of Raw. The entire 10 p.m. hour was a gauntlet match. It started with AJ and Kofi. Solid match. AJ got the win after the phenomenal forearm. Kofi was selling the fact that he had an earlier match that was pretty lengthy with The Miz. It was terrible, but, he still had to wrestle a long match with Miz. So he was selling that. And, it hurt Kofi. Now, this is where, again, like the directors of authority, the people in charge, it doesn't really make sense. Why would Kofi, after competing already on Raw, being the only one in the gauntlet match to compete on Raw already, why would he have to go first in the gauntlet against AJ Styles? Wouldn't Kofi get the last spot in the gauntlet? in a legitimate promotion, you'd want to give the guys enough time to kind of recuperate for their second match. Otherwise, the athlete could sue the promotion, right? It doesn't really make sense. Like, if you think about it in a real way, why was the order the way it was? Who's in charge of Raw? And the gauntlet match, this is what's funny about the gauntlet match. It was to determine who comes in last in the Elimination Chamber, right? You have the chamber, it's 6 guys in a giant cage. There's 4 pods. 2 guys start in the ring. After 5 minutes, 1 pod unlocks, another 5 minutes, the other pod, then another pod, then the final pod, right? So they were competing in this gauntlet match to determine who comes out of the final pod. But the gauntlet match is kind of like an elimination style match anyways, and they never explained how they determine the order for the gauntlet match itself, right? So how come Sheamus got to come in last in the gauntlet match? Was there some sort of random drawing of numbers? Was it based on a ranking of some sort, a number of matches that he's won and he qualified that way? There was no explanation as to why the order of the gauntlet match was what it was. Even though when you come in last in a gauntlet match, that means you only have to wrestle 1 guy, right? It's the best spot. So it puts you at an automatic advantage to win the gauntlet match, which Sheamus did, and then win the spot that you're competing for at the Elimination Chamber where you come in last for that match, where you're now also favored to win. So they're telling you that coming in last in an elimination-style match is so important that we're going to have an elimination-style match to determine who comes in last. However, the order for the gauntlet match that's so very important, that's just random. It doesn't really matter. Who cares? Stupid. It's just dumb. It doesn't make sense. Just give us a backstage drawing. Give us Adam Pearce saying, well, Sheamus will come in last and this is going to happen, or have it actually make sense and have Kofi come in last because he already wrestled. Like, just give us that, at least. But no, Kofi's in first. He has the match with AJ. He loses, of course, because he'd already wrestled tonight, so he was at a disadvantage. And the WWE, whoever is in charge, Shane McMahon, I guess, put Kofi at an even bigger disadvantage. Or did Adam Pearce do that? Adam Pearce is supposed to be a babyface authority figure, but he seems to do heel things, like put Kofi Kingston, a babyface, at a disadvantageous position in the gauntlet match. It's just dumb. If they thought about this a little bit more, they could have it make sense. Draw straws, something, heads or tails. Fill the first hour with qualifying matches to figure out what order you're going to be in the gauntlet match. Have them all work twice. I don't know. I mean, there is a way around it. Drew McIntyre then came out to wrestle AJ Styles after AJ advanced in the gauntlet. Drew beat AJ with the Claymore kick. The match was all right. I thought the match of the night, though, came up next. Drew McIntyre versus Jeff Hardy. I thought that was a solid match. Drew beat Jeff Hardy. Drew, in his second match in a row now, beats Hardy, hits the Claymore, gets the 1-2-3. I thought it was match of the night. I was amused by Jeff Hardy trying to get the empty building to chant his name. Hardy, Hardy. There's nobody there, dude. Nobody's chanting your name. Why are you doing that? It's very strange. It's funny. I love Jeff Hardy. His match was great. Match of the night, I think. Drew was solid tonight. I thought Drew had some good, solid matches. The match with Sheamus was all right. The match with AJ was solid. The match with Jeff, I thought, was his best. His match with Randy started off pretty good. Randy Orton came out next after Drew beat Jeff Hardy. Randy comes out. They start brawling. They go to the outside. And then the Fiend effects happen. There's all sorts of Fiend lights, and Alexa Bliss's face is up on all the video screens, and she's laughing, and Randy's freaked out, and the match is going on, so he gets counted out. Randy's so stupid that he is distracted in this very important match by some lights, laughing sounds, and Alexa Bliss's face on all the screens in the Thunderdome. That's how stupid Randy Orton, the character, is, apparently. He gets counted out. And then he didn't even realize the match was going on. He gets counted out. The bell rings. He's like, oh, what's going on here? And then he hits a Claymore kick, eats one right in the face by Drew. And then he's just down outside the ring. And then Sheamus' music hits. Drew's looking at the entrance, waiting for Sheamus. Sheamus attacks him from behind. So Sheamus is going to beat Drew here. Not only does Drew go through 3 matches, he has to go through AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, kind of. I mean, it wasn't really a match with Randy, but still. He has to go through these 3 guys, and Sheamus isn't going to come out to face him. Sheamus is going to beat him up from behind. So Drew's going to be beat up. And they're going to do the whole thing where Drew's like semi-conscious, and the ref's like, Drew, do you want to do the match? And Drew's like, yes, I want to do the match. And he's like, okay, well, you got to stand up. So Drew stands up, and instead of Sheamus running at him and just hitting the bro kick and going home, because Drew's, been through a lot. He's been through 3 matches and a pre-match from behind beatdown from Sheamus. Instead of hitting the brogue, Sheamus just kind of runs and clubs him, and then they have a match where Drew actually gets some offense in. And eventually Sheamus brogue kicks him, which you knew was coming because they'd stacked the deck so much against Drew McIntyre at this point that he had to lose in a non-title match where you don't want him going in as the last guy in the chamber. The strong babyface champion. Makes no sense that they would book him as coming in last, getting the heelish advantage in the Elimination Chamber match. That was obvious. It was obviously not going to go to Drew. He was not going to win the gauntlet. It would have been too much. It would have been ridiculous, and it would have garnered no sympathy for him going into this pay-per-view. You wouldn't be wondering, is Drew going to retain? Because they'd be already giving you Drew coming in last, right? So clearly he wasn't going to win here against Sheamus. But man, they made certain that you knew that if Drew was going to lose, he was going to, it was going to take a whole lot to put him down. And it did. And then Sheamus cut a promo talking about how he's the favorite to win the chamber and he's going to win the WWE title at Elimination Chamber. And we will preview the WWE Elimination Chamber coming up on Friday night on Wrestling Uncensored. Coming up Friday night right after SmackDown. All you WWE fans will do the whole Elimination Chamber preview coming up Friday night, 10 p.m., myself and Johnny North. And I'll be back here on Wednesday night, 10 p.m. for the AEW Dynamite recap show with Johnny North. We'll be back here right after Dynamite on Wednesday. Again, Thursday night for Ringside Report MMA at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll talk MMA. We'll preview the Curtis Blades Derek Lewis fight coming up on Saturday. We'll also talk about the fallout from UFC 258, Kamaru Usman. Just so excited for that Francis and Stipe fight. It's all I got on my mind. I was just talking about it earlier. But it's going to be Kamaru Usman against Jorge Masvidal in a rematch, it looks like. So we'll talk about that on Thursday and a lot more MMA going on Ringside Report MMA. I will see you again Wednesday night right after Dynamite. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to our members, especially you guys that were in the chat tonight. Derek John, my man. Thank you, Derek. Always bringing me the information. Derek is a great fill-in for Johnny North, I'm telling you. Derek's got the info that I need. Usually when I would turn to Johnny, I could turn to Derek, and he brings it. Patrick C. Hamilton as well. Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate you so much for supporting the team. We appreciate everybody. Go to donate.ringsidereport.net to support. Become a member over there. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitch, you can become a member at donate.ringsidereport.net. We appreciate you. And then I'll see your name in green in the chat, and you'll get priority in the chat on the shows and all that stuff in the comments. Donate.ringsidereport.net or become a member on YouTube for the YouTube channel. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And when you subscribe, click the bell so you get notifications every time we're on, because you never know when we might be popping on to talk pro wrestling and mixed martial arts right here on the Ringside Report Network.
Thank you and good night.
Please join in and give your support to Ringside Report Network. We've been providing expert coverage and commentary on both pro wrestling and MMA for over 15 years. Ringside Report started on the radio, added podcasts, and moved to video in 2019. Our hosts are not just fans, but have in-depth knowledge of the subjects. Become a member of our YouTube channel now and become a recurring supporter of our work as we strive to continue to entertain you in these strange times. Pro wrestler Johnny Genesis North joins lifelong wrestling fan and aficionado Dave Simon to host our pro wrestling programming with in-depth coverage of the WWE, AEW, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Our flagship show, Wrestling Uncensored, is live every Friday right after WWE SmackDown. Here, you get a review of the week that was. You may not agree with our host. In fact, they often don't agree with each other. But you have an opportunity to chime in with your viewpoint in the chat rooms while live or in the comments section of YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook on the replay. Dave and Johnny also headline our coverage of major pro wrestling pay-per-views and breaking news. Dave Simon is joined by experienced jiu-jitsu fighters Fred Garcia and the ever-unpredictable AJ DeLesio, each Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with Ringside Report MMA. They try and foresee what's next in the octagon and review, argue, and kibitz in a very friendly, irreverent manner. The three guys also team up to accompany you on all the major UFC pay-per-views with entertaining watch-alongs. Go to ringsidereport.net/support to find out more ways to support the channel.